do it for.
Here we go.
There we go. Okay, excellent.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm Bobby Lane and Lee Varys. We are on the chair for the photo committee for the Fine Art of Photography, and we are delighted to be running this series of having the Meet the Judges series. And tonight, our third judge is Shiv Verma. I've known Shiv for quite some time now. Shiv is, first off, a fantastic photographer, and he's multi-talented in many different areas. But Shiv is also a very dedicated photo educator and probably the single the single greatest supporter of photographic arts and support for people for photographers learning and coming up and getting involved than anybody else that I know. He really truly he gives his heart and soul to this. He's very, very devoted, and it's a great honor that he is going to be one of our judges, and it's a great honor to have him here tonight. So Shiv, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can talk about yourself all you like.
Wow. That kind of makes me nervous, very nervous, because how do I live up to everything that you just said? But um, yes, I love photography, but more importantly, I love to educate as much as I can with what I have learned. Um, I believe that when I die, uh, that's it. So might as well give it away while I can. And I've actually, probably spent more time uh, teaching than I have photographing. So I just love it. I love the fact that there is so much that goes on in our industry every year. And having come from a quote computer slash technical background, uh, it did really help a lot in my ability to grasp uh, the technology. And yes, I started photographing when I was about 11 years old. I was lucky to have a grandfather who felt that he could kind of add to my pleasure. And at a very young age, handed me a complete Leica kit.
Wow.
I didn't know what to do with it. So I just, tucked it away and I was very happy with my brownie. Um, I knew how to load film in it and it was just, a lot of fun. But, and then, the Leica kind of sat in one of my closets somewhere. I had totally forgotten about it. And I got passionately fond of a camera that a friend of mine had. And I borrowed it from him. It was a Rolleiflex. I borrowed it from him and basically refused to give it back. And it, shooting using a Rolly, waist level, being able to look down at it and see a large image. It was all, very exciting. And then sort of that evolved into you got to return me my camera. And I said, okay. So he got it back, and now I had nothing. So, recalling that there was this camera lying in a closet somewhere, pulled it out, and lo and behold, I realized what Leica was all about. And to this date, uh, being an ambassador for Panasonic, it has given me the ability to continue that passion for that Leica look. And Panasonic and Leica, sort of have a relationship which allows Panasonic to license what I call the Leica look, and they have it in their cameras. So, cut a long story short, photography is my passion. Computers were how I made a little bit of money once in a while, and now I spend my time doing what I feel like doing, and that's photography. So, with that said, let me just open up my presentation and share this window with you.
Yeah, excuse me.
Hopefully,
We're going to ask everybody if you could now please turn off your video and your microphone. So everything will go to Shiv.
so
Thank
I'm
you.
going to try and do as much as I can to give you an idea of what I believe a photograph should have or shouldn't have, what I look for, what my process is as far as evaluating images. Uh, Bobby and Lee, if you can tell me, is my face obtrusive on my slides or is it on the side? Because if it's on the side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off my video and hopefully you can still see the slides.
Yes.
Okay, so um, so I look for what I call impact. And we have this thing where we often go into a lot of dissertation, as I say, about what is and what is not a good photograph or what is and what is not good art. Uh, to me, I think impressions are what you get as an initial, often fleeting kind of visual representation of what the artist is creating. But impact to me is really what the result is, the influence, the expectation that there will be some change in behavior, and mostly that change in behavior is an emotional response. So if a photograph can evoke something which is more than just a visual, but actually has some sort of an emotional reaction from the viewer, particularly if I'm looking at an image from me, then that has a lot of meaning. It's something that you hold on to, something that you remember. And I often tell my students when I'm talking to them about image evaluation or judging or going to something which is like a show or a gallery or whatever, spend a little bit of time in understanding what images are and what they do to the people viewing them. So, as an example, as you go to the Museum of Fine Art, and to me, that's a wonderful place to go to because you learn so much more, not just about photography, but you learn about art. You learn about the use of light. You learn about the use of color. You understand what harmony means. But the way to do it, in my opinion, is don't walk into the gallery, don't walk into that room and start browsing the images. Just stand at the door and watch. Watch the people go in. And typically most museums have, some sort of a direction. You either go clockwise or counterclockwise and visual, see, get the visual impressions of what is there on the walls. And you'll find that there are a number of images or paintings that people just walk by. And then there'll be one or two that you'll find repeatedly people will stop and stare at it and look at it and think. And make note of that because at some point, whether it be half an hour or an hour later, and I don't mean this lightly, spend a lot of time outside the room observing the people, not observing the art that is out there. And then go in and now understand what it is that held their attention. And if you can create an image that will hold the viewer's attention, you are, in fact, creating an impact. And that's the impact that will be remembered because it's not just an image. It said something. It spoke to you. It told you something. And all that is a conversation that you are having with your eyes. And you can't walk away from a conversation. So look at your images in that way so that the image that you put in front of, whether it be a judge like myself, Lou, or Nancy, and I give every one of these judges credit for them participating in a situation where you are looking at things, you're looking at art, and that the judging is a subjective way of defining points, scores, whatever. But in reality, it's the meaning behind the image, it's the expression behind the image that to me matters the most. And the evaluation process is nothing more than analyzing an image so that we can understand that visual communication, establishing what the photograph is, what is its purpose, why did the photographer take this image, what is he trying to convey? But is it what he is or she is trying to convey, or is it what the image is trying to convey? To me, that is more important. The conveyance of a message, the conveyance of a story, and it doesn't have to be always something that speaks to your heart. No, it could speak to your emotion, it could speak to your feelings, it could speak to something that you may have experienced in the past. And I put these words at the bottom: light, color, composition, etc. Those are, in my opinion, photographic givens. We, if you are a photographer, you understand all of that. You know how to use light. You know how to compose. You know what balance, weight, etc. is. But what you need to put out there is the story. And, I look at some of my images. This was an image that I probably am most fond of. It's something that was taken in maybe 30 years ago. And I look at it over and over again and I say, you know what? I've broken every rule. And then there is no such thing as a rule in photography. People talk about rules, they're nothing more than certain guidelines. And one of those says, never do anything in even numbers. And everything in this image is in even numbers. There's twos of everything. There's two chairs, two trees, two rocks, two, two, two. But is there a story there? And are we looking at something which says, well, there are two chairs. Who sits in them? What do they talk about? Do they go there every day? It's not, maybe may not be near their home. Do they walk the distances? Do they cross the pond to get there? Or do they come from the other side? And when you start thinking about that, you can immerse yourself and you can just spend a fair amount of your daily life in minutes in just understanding and conceptualizing what the photographer understood, conceptualized, created, and delivered as an image. In this particular case, is there a story over there? To me, there is. To you, maybe there isn't. But you're looking at something which transpired. It was fleeting, a tremendous ice storm, blowing sleet, blowing rain, and then it all converted itself into, just snow blowing across these ice fields, and a lone horse walks by, and you start wondering to yourself, where is this horse going? And this is in Iceland, where these horses are very intelligent, and they're amazing creatures, but yet this one horse wandering on its own, does it create a story? To me, yes, it had a lot of meaning. Will it be that same meaning to a viewer like yourself? Probably, probably not. Probably yes. And you can debate it. And that's when you start realizing, is there something in this image? And you start questioning it. And maybe then it starts speaking to you. And that's what we're looking for. So, as far as the consideration, of an image, we all, as photographers, conceptualize. I mean, unless you, of course, you're taking snapshots, and then that's a whole different ballgame. But you conceptualize something. You see something, and then you start those attributes in your head as to what can I do with this? How can I take this and make it meaningful? That's where the process from conceptualization turns to capture. And then, of course, there's the post part of it, which is the processing and the enhancement. And then you start evaluating your image. And to me, one of the very critical aspects of photographic process in your workflow is the time And it was interesting yesterday, and hopefully you all have, the opportunity to see Lou's presentation. He used this term called wait and wait. And the wait, the time between when you finish processing your image and you show it to somebody, to me, there is a time of wait over there where you yourself need to go back to your image and look at it again after you processed it. Don't accept it the way it was as it came out of Photoshop or whatever. Put it away, and then go back and look at it. And 9 times out of 10, you will do something that will enhance the visual message that your image conveys. And that's your final evaluation that you're doing to say, can I now show it to you? Can I now show it to a judge? Can I now deliver this as my final output? And if you do that, then you have created something that is visually appealing, that will have a story. You can take anything. You can take architecture. You can take the Zakim Bridge as an example. And we talk about, color and color harmony, or black and white, and the harmony created within the structure of the tones of gray. To me, black and white is not necessarily a daytime image. To me, black and white is beautiful at night. And so people kind of wonder, why black and white at night? And that is a representation in itself when you spend your entire evening waiting for the crowds to dissipate so that you can capture this one image of a church, as you see on the right, in Iceland, where 9 times out of 10, no matter what time you go there are hundreds of people in front of it. But you wait till about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and you will have that opportunity. You go out into the quote landscape, find something that is appealing, and then find a way to tell its story. Because if you can tell the story of the landscape, it'll talk to the viewer. And it doesn't have to be always perfect. Imperfection in itself is a story. So don't be rigid in your evaluation. And as I was telling Lee and Bobby just before we started this, is to me, rules of photography are an absolute pain in the whatever you want to call it. Let your eyes speak to you and let your camera capture what the words are that are coming out in front of you. And when you look at what your subject matter is, it's really what the photograph is about. That's the subject. And you use the subject as the creator of the message. What is that subject communicating? And then the subject matter in itself is everything else that is included that illustrates what the subject is trying to transmit, to help it transmit that image. And it's important to look for the whole as a composition which is an illustration of what the subject is. And if I step one more, it's exactly the same. It's a portion of this image, which is a representation of what the story needs to be. This is the desert, the largest dunes in the world, in Namibia. And in this desert grows a tree. And how does it survive? When there is no water, there is nothing. And yet it grows, and there are green leaves, and it flourishes. Now, to me, nature is probably the most important thing. It is what I love to photograph, whether it be nature as landscape, nature as wildlife. And I look for shapes and forms, but I look for stories. And you try and understand what is going on. When you look at dunes that have such defined straight lines, and then you look in the distance and all you see is curves, how does that happen? And those are questions which a photograph, again, starts talking to you. When there are questions that are raised by an image, you are starting a conversation, and that conversation may or may not give you an answer. But if it does, great. If it's not, it's still communicated. And that's the importance of a photographer's ability to take that concept, capture that image, and deliver a story to the viewer. Here again, and I tell you that if you go to Namibia, it's a land of such diverse photographic elements, so many stories. And it's one of those things where everywhere you look, there is a message to be said, a message to be had, and a message to be captured. Camel thorn trees, these things are hundreds of years old. They're dead, yet they stand solid in this white clay against these orange dunes. So Edward Steichen said something which I find most interesting, and I'm not going to read this out to you, but there's a quote which really says something that resonates with me. And he said the technical process simply serves as a vehicle of transportation and is not as the art. So don't worry about technicalities. Technical perfection to me is something that is an accepted medium creator. It's an accepted form of delivery. It is an expectation that we all have. Yes, photographs are usually technically good, but it's nothing. It's antiseptic. It's just shapes, forms, lines, color. Where's the story? Where's the meaning? You go to another church and you find one person sitting over there, contemplating, and all of a sudden there is a story. This is technically great, but this carries meaning. You wonder what's going on. Why is the church empty? There's no priest, there's nobody there. Yet there is somebody sitting, praying, asking, maybe begging. So photography as an artistic expression, again, there's a message, there is a story, and here's something that I feel strongly about, that nature and wildlife have so much to communicate and so much to say. And in the art of, quote, fine art photography, there is so much that can be done. And it's not just individual images that tell stories. You can use triptychs, you can use portfolios, whatever it is. And they are all meaningful if they are conveying any strong message that will hold you and your attention. So the representation of wildlife, I mean, I could just do that and spend days and days and days out in the wild watching, and on occasion capture an image that really has some meaning. But our process, or my process, as far as evaluation is concerned, is really going back to concepts, themes, messages, and moods. It's less of the technicality of the image. And when you look at photographic rules, don't place things in the center. I love placing things in the center because that's where the attention is. You want to draw the viewer to the heart of the image. There's nothing wrong with placing things in the center. Lines need to be sharp. Yes, they do. But so what if they are reflecting and they're no longer sharp? What if you have diagonals that are crisscrossing and not only pointing to the subject. Is the overall presentation relevant? And is it relevant to the story? That's what matters. So, formally evaluating photographs to assess, remember that not all photographic criteria apply to all images. And when you look at nature in itself and the strength that it has, you build a township in a desert and you mine that desert for all it's worth. I mean, this is the diamond mining town. And finally and eventually, the diamonds will run out. And when they do, nature will take over. And just as the sand comes back and reclaims what you took from it, not before long, there will be no more township left. So, from my point of view, I ask these questions that hopefully your images answer. Does the photograph force you to notice and engage with it? How well does it fulfill its purpose? Does it make the statement and create and complete a message to the viewer? And if you have used photographic tools, how have you used them? If you've used creativity, how has it been applied? And finally, how good have you presented your image? And if you use concepts of creating vignettes, there are many ways of doing it. Apply them, but apply them cautiously. If you want to do overlays, by all means, if it brings more attention, if it brings more life to the image, apply it. If you want textures, go ahead and use textures. Let the textures speak for the image. And finally, yes, if you are looking at street photography, then a statement Lou made yesterday that kind of resonated with me. Show me something different. I like doing street photography, but I don't want subjects to be flat bang in the center and in my face. So I try and push them further into the scene rather than bringing them forward in the scene. And here's just, you know, a, a way of doing that that I enjoy because it wants me to go in and look at why, what is more, what is different. And finally, if you're into abstractions, by all means, play that, but play it well, play it so that it tells. And when it speaks, we will listen. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop sharing and take any questions if there are.
Okay, excellent, excellent, Shiv.
Shiv,
Um,
that was fantastic. Really, I so appreciate everything you said, and I must say that the difference between you and Lou and Nancy, it's like you each are bringing a different kind of perspective to this. But it's a great balance between everybody. It's like it's everyone. It's all part of the puzzle. Just fantastic.
Thank you.
Shiv, somebody is asking for your contact information.
Let me do this. Let
Can
me
you put it
just
in the chat?
yeah,
no, let me just do this. Let me just put
I took back the host from you. So,
that's okay. I can still share.
oh, there you go. Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
So my phone number, if you do call me, and my thing says, "Why are you calling?" If you reference this and say why, it'll ring. Otherwise, I don't. My phone will stop all nonsensical calls. So um, my email is there, and you can always email me. I do respond, and well, the YouTube and Instagram are there just for reference.
I love this picture of the Rosie. That's
Excellent.
great.
Yeah.
Shiv, you said so many things that really touched me, and you made me think about some things. Um, there was a photo exhibit that I saw up in the main media workshops many years ago, and
Mhm.
the person I don't want to say the name, but the person who was doing this was shooting all 8x10, and she was doing stuff that I had never seen done before. And one of the things that happened is that there was one little room, and I went into this room. I got there early, and I went into the room, and I'm looking at this, and I'm going, "How is this art? How is this?" It's like I don't get this. I don't understand what's happening here. It's like this just doesn't make any sense to me. And then I was teaching a workshop that week, and as my students started to come in, I took them into the room, and I went, "Look at these pictures. What do you think of this? Why do you think that this is saying something? What's going on here?" And then another person came in and I took them in, and all of a sudden it got me. How many times did I go back in that room to look at the picture? It's like I
Yeah,
could not stop going because I didn't quite, it wasn't fed to me. It demanded that I interact with it. And then all of a sudden I went from who is this person and why are they doing this to, oh my God, she's brilliant. Because it
yeah.
really, and here this is I'm talking about 10 years ago now. I can still see that picture in my mind, and it still is really affecting me. So I think that that's very important. And also I will say it was not a technically good picture, but that actually enhanced it. So when you were talking about that, about really that impact, and that's forcing you to pay attention, basically, and to become a part of it. It's like you know, a photograph isn't a thing. It's a it's an interaction. It's like if a photograph doesn't exist without the viewer doesn't have a photograph to look at, it's not a viewer. So, the two of them have to go together and find that. But I thought that the way that you presented that was really excellent.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? Ah, come on.
You don't have to have questions if you can throw rocks,
Yeah, if you don't have a
you can
question, do you have any
comment.
comments?
I like what you said about the technical aspect doesn't have to be perfect because I've had several pictures where I felt they could be good, but technically they weren't good, but still they conveyed a feeling, and I'm hesitant to print them or do anything with them because they're either a little out of focus or uh, lighting wasn't right or something, but yet I get a feeling from it. So you've kind of helped me to overlook that.
Well, yes, do overlook it, but you are in a situation in a juried exhibition when there is more than one juror that I may not feel that the technical aspects have to be dead on perfect, but you have two other people and they may feel differently. So, in a single juried exhibition where there's a single juror, yes, what I'm saying would apply. But when you have multiple judges, then you have to cater to what they have also said. And to me, I think what Lee and Bobby are doing is absolutely the right thing to do, the right way to do it, because you have the opportunity now to understand where three people are coming from and how they will perceive and visualize and respond to what you present them. But hopefully, everybody understands and appreciates the fact that a photograph has to tell a story and has to engage the viewer.
All right,
Thank you.
I'm gonna stop sharing this slide here. So Shiv, let's see your face.
Ah, okay. Sorry. let me turn my video back on so you
There you
can
go.
see my face.
All right. See, now we feel like we can ask you a question.
Okay. Now you may ask me a question. See, I just hid myself because I didn't want any rocks.
Hi,
I was
Shiv.
looking,
Uh,
my name's Peter Collins, and I apologize for coming in late. But I was just looking at this last photograph that you had next to your contact information, and it disturbed me when it first came up, the one of
Rosie and Spoonbill.
the spoonbill and the little turn next to him or whatever. And it disturbed me. And I said, why are his wings out of focus? And I said, gee, I wouldn't put that next to my name. Uh, and then the more I looked at it and I saw the reflection and the more you spoke, I said, well, that's actually a damn good picture. I like that picture. So it's really nice to see someone that practices what you preach. I would not consider that myself a technically perfect picture, but it is nonetheless an extraordinary image. So thank you for bringing that point up.
Thank you, Peter.
Peter, I want to respond to what you said because to me, that is actually an example of using technique to enhance the story.
Yeah,
Because the wings, are moving and they're blurred, and that, using a slow enough shutter speed to be able to capture that. So that's where the technique matches the concept. That's I think I think Peter, you and I both were raised and trained that everything is supposed to be sharp.
right,
It's like we were taught at Lee too. We were all taught everything has to be sharp. It has to be color correct. It has to be perfect. Da, 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 da. And it took me so long to break out of that. And now what do I do? Now I'm shaking the camera, zooming the camera. I'm doing all kinds of weird shit all the time. So because it has much more meaning and energy to it
right,
than just everything being perfect.
right, right.
If perfection, if all photographs were supposed to be perfect, perfectly sharp, perfectly color, perfect this, perfect that, then one of my favorites would unfortunately be considered a horrible photographer. Henri Cartier-Bresson never produced a sharp image.
No, um, he was great. No, that's true. But I was brought up very much in the influence of the F64 club, so it was like you had to be. But no, I agree with you. I love Cartier. It's yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we all sort of, get to a point where you listen to so much about technical aspects and you want to break away, you want to shy away from that. You want to be different. And again, I go back to what Lou said yesterday, which, really again resonated because he says, show me something different. Now, we've all done so much that everything becomes the same, the same, the same. How do you produce something different? And sometimes if you take the perfect technical away, you do start creating something different.
Good point.
Yeah.
Very good point. Yeah.
Karen, did you have a question? I think you started to say something.
I do. I'll lower my hand here. First of all, I'm Karen Hirsch, and I'm president of Fort Dearborn Chicago Photo Forum in Chicago.
Oh,
Um,
great. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. And we constantly have this discussion about, technically perfect versus not. There's a camera club mentality where they're expecting a certain type of image, and in our group we encourage experimentation. But I was curious about your opinion, Shiv, on a couple things. But first, I wanted to tell you I studied with Ernst Haas many years
oh,
ago, and what you said reminded me of him. because he didn't want to do anything about the technical aspect of the camera. He was interested in the mood, and he wanted you to convey that, which stuck with me. But I was curious what you felt about, like in the camera club world, you're only supposed to use textures that you've produced yourself, and you're not supposed to use generative fill. Uh, Whereas sometimes generative fill will fill in a patch, perhaps, that you want to cover. I mean, it's part of the photographer's vision, what they want. Um, and so I'm just curious, what do you think of that?
Again, you bring up a few very interesting points. I mean, camera clubs, they set rules and guidelines for their competitions, and I think they want to unify the playing field. And then that also makes it easy in the process of judging because the rules have been established, and if you can't do this, then you don't get your score, or if you break the rules, then you get disqualified. Um, in in this competition or in this image exhibition, um, they too have certain guidelines and certain rules. And to your point, artificial intelligence to create something that is your vision, if it is created from the elements of your own image, like an expansion, or, when you are cleaning up, for example, let's say you want to get rid of a distraction and you use the erase tool, then you're basically just getting rid of it. But if you use intelligence, then that erasure allows the software to build back what it believes could have been there had that distraction not been there in the first place. So, in my opinion, that type of intelligence used appropriately is okay. But if you create an altogether portion of your image, which is nothing more than generated through means of, a database of a gazillion images that say, well, what this artist is looking for is this, so let me give 3 or 4 representations what I believe they're looking for, then it's not really yours. So, a filler is okay, but a creator is not.
Well, for example, I just created an image uh, in Mexico, and there was a wall, and there was a distraction on the wall that I didn't like. And I found that with generative fill, it filled in the patch perfectly. And that's
Yeah.
what I wanted. But it's still using generative fill, and that's a no-no according to camera clubs. So,
Well, if I may interrupt, if you used the clone tool and you took portions of the good part of the wall and filled in the distraction with the clone tool, would that be okay?
well, yeah, that's considered okay. But sometimes it doesn't work. Like a lot of times, like if there's like in the sky, for example, if there's a graduated blue color, lighter tone, it's a bitch to try to clone that. So,
Sure, sure
yeah.
it is. And that's where generative fill or generative expand, they do a very good job. And lo and behold, you've got to understand that there are so many things that we've been doing with our images that have, in fact, deployed the concept of artificial intelligence without even letting you know that it's being done.
Right.
I mean, noise removal through means of today's technology is really another way of using artificial intelligence. I mean, I go through the process of taking 15 images and stacking them to get rid of noise. What I can do that same thing, get rid of the noise by using denoise. But that's artificial intelligence. So which one do you want to, play with? I mean, it's
I think, we could go on and on and on and discuss all this. The rules for the exhibit here, um, we're looking for primarily camera-based art. So that's photography as images that are captured by a camera. How you enhance those images, as long as that's the predominant uh, media that you're presenting your imagery in, any little enhancement, it's as long as it serves that image, it's perfectly fine. But all of that also is up to the discretion of the judge. So when the judges discuss all this or make their choices, their ideas are going to come into the mix. But basically, it's no AI for pretending to be a photograph.
We do have in the prospectus, we do have a section that states what the policy is for this show on artificial intelligence. So, you can go and you can access that. But Karen, I wanted to refer to you because, Lee and I do a lot of judging for the New England Camera Clubs. And we do find that there's a big difference between clubs in New England in terms of what their policies are. So, it's a club-based thing, but I think when it comes to you personally, I think it's what your vision is. It's like you have to decide whether that's okay or not. And nobody else can tell you that. It's if you're just creating images for yourself and for the people that you want to show them to and not be concerned about what a competition is, it really doesn't matter. It's your art.
Right.
So, funny you mentioned that, Bobby. The clubs have different rules, and each club has. What we're trying to do with NECCC as the parent body is working on a unified statement, and it's really evolving around, the term generative and generative fill. Is that as long as you use generative fill without a statement, without a request for the software to go out and get something incremental. So just let it do it. So it, in the most part, uses the pixels of your image to build whatever it's doing.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Right.
Good.
Well, there was an argument about that. If anything that you said is generative fill, people said, "Oh no, you can't do that." But but there's so much confusion. People just don't know. So it's got to be
It's
clarified.
ever evolving. So,
Right. I think so.
AI is here. It's not going to go away. And most people seem to totally accept it in Photoshop and Lightroom. So, but it's again, we could talk about this forever and what difference does it make because
There's going to be
next
AI
year
in
is
your
going to be
camera
different.
very soon.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think we do need to wrap
I'm
this.
sorry. In this competition, is it only for photographers from the Northeast?
No.
No.
International.
Oh,
It's
I didn't realize
international.
that. Oh, okay.
Yes, no, please go read the perspective. It's for everybody. I mean, we're trying to increase the awareness of it because it's existed in Plymouth for 16 years, but we really want it's a great show. So we really want to reach out to other people and have other people participate. We
No,
get a lot
we
of people from Florida and on the East Coast, but there's no reason that you can't do it in other places.
right. A few years ago, we had 9 countries represented from Europe and the Middle East. So it's for everybody. That's the wonderful thing about digital photography. You could it's you can send it in and we will give you shipping instructions, and it works out quite well. And we've had first place winners win from both out of state and out of country. So,
All right. Do we have any
Well, I think it's
questions?
I think it's time to wrap it up here, guys. We definitely got into a lot more discussion with you, Shiv. This has really been fantastic. So, and again, I just want to say, Shiv, thank you so much. I'm really just delighted that you agreed to be one of our judges, and you know, this was a great presentation tonight. So thank you.
Well, thank you all. And as far as the exhibition is concerned, truly wish it all the best.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
All
you.
right. Good night, everybody.
Thank
Right.
you.
Take care.
Good
Thank
night.
you so
Bye now.
much.
Stopping the recording. Here we go.